Welcome to ES Ascension News for May 2020. Our theme for this month, Precipice of Evolution and Lyran History. Dear Ascending Family, we all have been here before, standing at a precipice of major evolutionary change, where the same choices were presented to us: love or fear. Much of the current crisis and the themes we are facing now are steeped in our hidden galactic history. We must ask ourselves, how do we actually choose a different future, an ascending timeline that benefits all human beings? If we can do our part to stay out of fear and continually choose love and peace, we can create a link through time in which our present timeline can phase lock into the future timeline of the Christos realignment, where spiritual freedom and human freedom has already manifested. As we restore energetic balance to the planetary architecture and the energy grid networks to be governed by universal laws, we establish the new laws to be made manifest through our physical body. All change begins within the self. As each of us holds value for all life, we are empowered to be a positive force of spiritual transcendence that restores energetic balance, which increases our discernment in choosing to demonstrate life-affirming actions for ourselves and humanity. Humanity has met the precipice of evolution in a timeline of personal choice, which pushes us even harder to look deep inside of ourselves for greater answers. We have to pay attention to who is lying to us and to know the reasons why. This is the time to openly consider what the consequences will be if we allow those that are malevolently lying to the masses to be given the power to guide us to the next destination. Thus, no matter what our belief system, we must go beyond in order to seek the truth and decide what kind of value systems have meaning for us and how we want to live and coexist with each other. Together, we have immense spiritual support to find innovative and creative ways to reshape our global societal system to support pro-human values which increase our energetic health and ensure the well-being of our future progeny. Do we want to do the right thing for preserving human freedoms for the future? And if so, what is our personal piece in this global awakening puzzle? Can we stand up for our inherent human rights and for the rights of the human collective to have access to truthful information, demanding full disclosure, doing the right thing in the face of widespread tyrannical control? More people are exploring who and what they have been in consent with in the fear-based narratives, and as cracks in the veneer are starting to show, many are making radical changes in their perceptions of the reality. This phase of the mass global PSYOP has revealed many examples of those controlling forces enmeshed in the shadow government, facades, and unelected officials working for the deep state. Those perpetrating their own agenda are gleefully exploiting power grabs from those less advantaged and being positioned to grossly profit from severe abuses of power. Many people are still reeling in shock from how fast our entire world has changed in a matter of weeks at the hands of these psychopathic controlling forces that are desperate to seize control over the global population, especially within the Western power centers, at any cost. We are at a fork in the road of shifting timelines. The precipice of evolution requires that humanity think for themselves to determine the actual motivations and beliefs behind what is actually happening to purposely terrorize and enslave humanity in the current world events. Then begin to rise up with the courage to make the correct decisions needed to co-create a future world that supports human beings with the resources needed in order to evolve forward as a race of free people, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. We must remember we have choice and consent in where we put our resources, our time, energy, and attention. We do not have to be slaves to the technocracy and to the artificial intelligence drones, as has been meticulously planned out by the negative alien agenda. We may have believed that we lived in a relatively free, democratic society, but in the last weeks of peering into the precipice of evolution, it has been made clear to many people that we do not, as a very small few are attempting to take tyrannical control over every aspect of our personal lives. The core spiritual essence in the heart of humanity is being intentionally attacked and threatened through the unyielding propaganda of fear, to erode any sense of connection, the feelings of compassion and empathy for our fellow humans. That which makes us truly human is our heart-based empathy for one another, the sense of belonging as we connect with the human beings that are around us. Humanity is wired for connection, and the pleasure and bond we can feel when we interact with each other is something we must cultivate and protect. As the medical tyranny increases, for those that were already sick and approaching their time to pass over while in nursing homes and hospitals, many have been left to die completely isolated and alone. There are humans that are being subjected to draconian measures of extreme cruelty, separated from family and friends, without a loving and caring human to hold their hand as they passed into the next realm. This is a good example of the intentional outer programming of irrational fear used to incite a lack of empathy in humanity. This is inhumane and cruel behavior that is being conditioned as perfectly normal in the death culture. As we walk this razor-thin line in the precipice of evolution, we must decide if we are willing to accept this next stage of imposed dehumanization. We must decide what is the governing principle of human society, love or fear. Stripping humanity of personal freedom. The controllers are attempting to psychologically beat us into submission with this plandemic in order to get us to passively accept their anti-human vision of the AI technocracy policing our every move with identification tattoos, nanotech biosensors, neural links, and automated robots that replace natural human connections and intimacy. This transhumanism agenda to unleash the AI demon into the global grids is designed to break apart any last vestiges of human authenticity, curtailing the ability to freely express human kindness and interfering with heart-based interactions between real and organic people. Instead, the vision being painted for our dystopian future is that we fearfully hide behind our enforced burqa-esque uniform of masks, gloves, and hazmat suits, spraying disinfectants with every next cycle of mysterious plandemic outbreak, suspending our lives for the deceptive promise that we will develop herd immunity with each newly designed, genetically modified organism, mandated vaccine, and inserted nanotech chips. This is not about human health. It is about holding people hostage while they intend to destroy human health, human economic autonomy, and personal sanity. We have to see the motivations leading to the desired end results of this dark anti-human agenda very clearly before we are able to come together as a unified group that is fully equipped to stop it. Our true identity and history are under attack through how we express ourselves in the world with loving kindness, compassion, and empathy, and personal autonomy, which is now being intentionally weaponized against us. How the negative alien agenda despise the divine birthright of the heart-based expression of unconditional love, empathy, and intimate connections that exist between authentic spiritual human beings. The Western value system that was intended to uphold the constitutional liberties and human rights for all peoples is taking the last stand through those brave individuals who love personal freedom and recognize the many dangers behind the current draconian ordinances. The carefully planned policies to limit human freedom are being synchronized and put into place now in all of the westernized governments, which historically happens just before a major coup attempt. In this case, it is being orchestrated to generate consent into the fall of tyranny, with the shadow government rising to enforce the one world order. We are teetering on that precipice. The first step that must happen is that we must awaken from our slumber and stop believing the deceptions of the invisible puppet masters and their mouthpiece representatives in order to see exactly who is who through their lies and enforcement of totalitarian objectives, to know why this lockdown is really happening. Disclosure can happen if more people are willing to use critical thinking and common sense while doing some due diligence in researching the actual facts and are willing to face some dark and unpleasant truths in the process of that discovery down the rabbit hole. Thus, we should do what we can to pray for and support the brave heroes and champions of humanity that are rising now to courageously speak and give their personal testimony to the public about the dark cabal's deep webs of corruption, sharing truthful information about their research into the many crimes made against humanity. We must be willing to look at the web of darkness in the environment in order to be able to clearly see these orchestrated attacks that are crippling personal freedoms, and by identifying the psychological warfare tactic being used to subjugate minds while they are in action. This phase is not about the virus or public health. It is about the aggressive psychological terrorism the controllers are purposely inflicting upon the population. To overcome this phase of darkness, we have to see how the dark agenda of the controllers betrayed humanity and deceived us into believing their false narratives, so we will not make the same mistakes again. We have to see where we have misplaced our trust by allowing the continuation of rampant abuses of power that are designed to further enslave humanity. Therefore, we have to be willing to face the abusers and their lies in order to see the crimes they have made against humanity and begin to honestly forgive ourselves for allowing these spiritually sick and depraved people to gain such power to tyrannically rule over our lives. We will experience emotional pain from fully realizing this great betrayal. The power elite groups believe they are above the common rule of the law and that they cannot be judged for their crimes against humanity because they are noble or royal bloodlines and have the divine right to rule. The people of Earth will have to rise to stand together to take the accounting and then decide the consequences which lead to the path of tyranny or freedom. Tyranny or freedom, choosing love or fear. Thus, for those of us taking part in this global awakening, each of us must re-educate ourselves to better understand our true spiritual origins and hidden history, to more accurately assess the collective human race issues that we currently face and the challenges of the present environment. We all have been here before, standing at this precipice of major evolutionary change during the time of the fall of the first world. The same choices were presented to us, love or fear. We must pay attention to the signs and patterns in our world and learn to evolve and change from the destructive experiences we know happened from the past histories. Much of the current crisis and themes we are facing now are steeped in our hidden galactic history, the historical timeline trigger events that have been stolen from our memories and are replaying themselves in multiple dimensions of time again and again. They keep replaying these same destructive patterns from the past histories in developing human consciousness, stunting our growth forward until we understand how to evolve past these previous experiences and emotional themes in which we must choose love over fear. When we study the past patterns and learn from our mistakes, we can actually choose a different future for ourselves, an ascending timeline that benefits all human beings. We must remember how to believe in ourselves again and have faith in our innate divinity in order to break free from the fear-based mind control used by the outer dark forces. When we are interconnected, we see through their tactics designed for the purpose of subjugation. To passively accept this global tyranny of fear, being enforced by the controlling humans and non-humans. These controlling groups are the tiny minority on the earth, and yet they have successfully conditioned us into fear through sophisticated social engineering and technological mind control for many millennia, to shape us to blindly accept what we are being told without questioning, whereby the human race passively accepts the fear-based narrative and impose limitations for enacting various means of consciousness enslavement. Lyran Wars and Humanity's Genetic Origins. It may be hard to fathom that in this moment in the metaphysical realms, we are reliving the seed of the first wars of the Antichrist that began in Lyra. This takes us into our true galactic history, where this war further spread into the Orion constellation, when divine humans were seated upon our first homeworld, fifth-dimensional Tara. There were those that were so terrorized by the pure eternal light of the forces of love we carried in our crystal heart, that in fear they tried to eliminate us from ever incarnating again into this universe. We are again at that same juncture in time, where we have to make a decision moving forward into the next cycle of evolution to learn from and move beyond our past history. We must call upon our true humanity, the power of our eternal sacred crystal hearts, and put all of our best efforts upon the altar of serving humanity, God, and Spirit. We stand at the precipice of great transformation and positive change in the possibility of making choices that integrate great forces of spiritual healing, health, and harmony into our world in order to end the great galactic war cycles that began in Lyra, from continually repeating the same destructive events of human genocidal agendas and planetary cataclysms once and for all. During these critical events happening on the Earth now that have been opened access into previous timelines, we are going back in time to observe humanity's original seeding and genetic ascendancy that is sourced directly from the cradle of Lyra and the Lyrans. Through trans-time connection, if we can do our part to stay out of fear and continually choose love and peace, we can create a link through time in which our present timeline can phase lock into the future timeline of the Christos realignment, where spiritual freedom and human freedom have already manifested. These destructive events of human genocidal campaigns and Holocaust, which have haunted our race for millions of years in the galactic history, will lose their power over our future destiny and will cease to manifest in this present time. The Lyran Wars are the very first seed of Antichrist conflict recorded in the universal time matrix, in which the black hole entities intended to conquer the entire Milky Way system. This resulted in the First Galactic War, intended as a rebellion over the Lyran's creation of the 12th dimensional Christos template human seedings that first began on planet Tara. This is the original timeline in the Solar Logos Avatar Matrix, where the first electronic wars and time rips were used as a genocidal campaign for committing the first Christos human Holocaust, when the neighboring black hole entities attacked the royal houses and destroyed the Lyran gates in order to sever the Milky Way matrix from its mother universe, Andromeda. The aftermath of the destruction caused by the Lyran Wars resulted in the Milky Way time matrix digressing into a fallen universe, in which these original Lyran-coded fragments were used to form the Phantom Matrix and the Base 10 artificial tree of life that essentially became the new home for the invading forces of the negative alien agenda. After the destruction of the Lyran 12th Stargate and Lyra Aramatena, the Emerald Order, Lyran, Elohim, feline races were appointed to serve as the primary universal security team to repair the timeline architecture, but also to carry out the reclamation of the Christos mission and assist the many other fallen races in order to be able to continue a path of evolution to ascension. These fallen races have been partially or fully assimilated into AI programs, black hole technology that was historically used both as a technological weapon to enslave other living matrices and to pull them into phantom matrices where those captured would be consumed and eaten. The point of AI infection of this black hole technology ripping holes into our matrix and infecting our system began during the Lyran Wars, which was also intended to stop the future seeding of Founder and Christos races. The first lineages of the main original Lyran, Elohim, feline, humanoid races were also called the Anuhazi of the Emerald Order. The Anuhazi, embodied as the liquid light biological forms of the original Christos races in this universe, existing in the solar logos fields of Lyra Aramatena, and are the founder emanations that embodied the architecture of the cosmic sovereign law of one, which includes the ancient builder templates of God Creator Code. The Lyran Elohim felines were supervising the Syrians to host the seeding of 12-strand DNA genetics on the fifth-dimensional planet Tara for Christos race embodiment. After the fall of Tara, The Anahazi downstep themselves into the lower dimensions through the Azurites and Oraphim, which are 24 to 48 DNA strand templates, to create the interdimensional free world councils. This was to protect and embody in the Universal Stargate locations in order to repair AI damage, and to reassemble and protect the Royal House of Lyra's original genetic library, which was the source code design for Christos forms. The Royal Houses of Lyra. The trinity of the Emerald Order, Gold Order, and Amethyst Order incarnations that were seated in the fourth harmonic universe in the Lyran matrix are also known as the Royal Houses. The Emerald Order of Elohim seeded the Anahazi feline Elohim races through the Lyran 12th Stargate, Aramatena. They are also known as the direct founders of the Christos races, the Ionis, Essene Grail lines that include the Oraphim. The second light manifestation of the Gold Order are the Gold Ray Orders of Seraphim, Sarah's avian bird people, and Athen lines that are the Solar Rishi, which incarnated in the fourth harmonic universe on Lyra, Vega, through the 10th Universal Stargate. The third light manifestation of the Amethyst Order are Violet Ray Orders comprised of Cetacean, Avian, Pegasus people, and aquatic Braharamas, seated in the fourth harmonic universe on Lyra, Avion, through Universal Stargate 11. The Royal Houses collected advanced genetics from many meta-terrestrial founder races which were used to generate the original eternal light, diamond sun body, held in the Christos template. During the fall of Lyra, these Royal House genetic records were placed in the Emerald Founder records and hidden in and out of time. Early on, these were recorded on holographic plates and taken to be stored in Sirius B, which became the Hall of Records repository for holding the historical timelines and genetic records of the root races seated on Earth, Tara, and Gaia. Human beings' DNA records and genetic ascendancy lineages hold the accurate historical timeline records for the entire universal system. This means that original human DNA template records hold the actual and true events in the history of all timelines that exist within the entire universal time matrix. When a Christos architect can retrieve original divine human 12-strand DNA pieces that have fragmented from trauma, or can read a human body at a DNA level, the architect can read the energy signatures of the timelines from within the DNA record, which reflect the true and organic history of the planet, solar system, and universal matrix. Each individually incarnated human being holds a specific and special DNA record of the timelines from their soul extensions and monadic family, which should lead them directly back to the royal houses of Lyra. The negative alien agenda have intentionally fractured human souls with satanic ritual abuse methods with the intent to override and alter these histories with holographic inserts and AI technology attached through inflicting trauma and light body damage, and that process is what inserts an inorganic AI record. This is a strategy used in alien hybridization and genetic modification in which the human being has no awareness of their original genetic ascendancy and Lyran history. However, Christos starseed architects can learn to sense the difference between organic records and inorganic records, and this is also directly a part of the timeline wars as the negative alien agenda do not want us to see what really happened in the timelines. Remember, they have stolen our memories and mind wiped us on the earth to make us forget who we really are. They want us to believe we have been abandoned on this earth or are the product of Anunnaki, Yahweh, or some other supposed false alien god. As more humans awaken to activate their inner Christos template, some will be able to perform this function. This is also why those of us on the path can be harassed and attacked to prevent us from realizing this is our purpose and mission, to help recover original memories and help ascend or transit humanity. Because the divine human genetic origins are sourced from the royal houses of Lyra, our original Diamond Sun genetic template and physical body is referred to as being royal, which means that in the angelic human DNA, the record exists that we are connected to the founders or gods of this system via our genetics. This has made humans the secret enemy of those hidden entities in the negative alien agenda who covet and desire our DNA and the use over our physical bodies. Instead, the non-human imposters stole our identity when they invaded and then promptly made themselves the gods and rulers of this system. The royal houses were constructed upon 3 white holes in the core of 3 pre-matter planetoids in the cradle of Lyra that reflected the solar logos body of the 12th dimensional Lyran sun from the combined, unified, threefold flames of the cosmic trinity. These were liquid light pre-matter forms in a spherical domain, which in its entirety held the architecture for the solar logos and the living matrices for the Christ mind, Buddha mind, and Avatar mind. When aspects of the cosmic trinity passed through the white hole, the unified consciousness was broken down into the lower dimensional vibratory frequencies which make up each dimensional spectrum. Each dimensional frequency band had originally experienced itself as fully unified with Source and Whole, and this process created a different point of consciousness awareness located in another spectrum of frequency. Within the dimensional spectrums of frequency were the building blocks of creation, the positive polarity, the negative polarity, and the integration point back into neutral, which generates the 0 point. When a consciousness chooses to learn and grow by being aware of the existence of both polarities, they will organically evolve and grow towards integration, achieving inner energetic balance with the 0 point. This is the path of consciousness expansion and personal growth, which ultimately leads to the integrated spiritual ascension. Because this is the primary design of the time matrix and our personal DNA template, the path of polarity integration supersedes artificial intelligence signals and inorganic machinery, and renders it ineffective against its living target. It is the lower polarities that exist in the negative ego structure that are attuned to the mind control of AI signals, and when uncorrected, lead to the proliferation of reversal polarity currents. Additionally, the goal of creating multiple stations of identity was to experience evolutionary themes throughout time and space, from the perspective of many points of consciousness located throughout the dimensional spectrum, that would eventually return back to integrate all aspects into wholeness at the end of the time cycle. The way back home is polarity integration, which returns us back into 0 point and wholeness, which happens much faster at the end of ascension cycles. The most powerful universal gates in our system which relate to controlling the operational functions in our time matrix are those located in the cradle of Lyra, the 12th dimensional gate Aramatena, the 11th dimensional gate Avion, and the 10th dimensional gate, Vega, along with the 8th dimensional Orion gates. These Lyran gates were destroyed during the Lyran Wars, which destroyed the architecture for the solar logos Christ body in this universal system. And then the black hole entities went to Orion in order to secure the 8th dimensional metagalactic core as a military base and AI command control center for themselves. Paladorian Covenant and Interdimensional Free World Councils. The founder groups involved in this Christos blueprint seeding and ongoing DNA rehabilitation are called the Lyran Syrian High Councils, which are downstepped emanations of the original cosmic trinity of the Milky Way system. The Emerald Order lines are the founders of the Interdimensional Free World Councils as the result of the Paladorian Covenant to ensure that all souls lost in the Phantom Matrix as the result of the fall of Lyra that led to the fall of Tara are eventually recovered and returned back to the God Source. The Syrian High Council serves as the administrative body for the Interdimensional Free World Councils, or the IFWC. This is a task force to maintain freedom-based evolutionary agreements and agendas between all star nations. These crystal star guardian groups are from the God worlds and oppose deception, mind control, and slavery of all life forms, and thus protect spiritual freedom. Recently, the planet has received changes in appointing more guardian defenders and Christic facilitators from the IFWC at every dimensional level of access. They are responsible for the recovery platform, which services the rehabilitation and education towards service to others and teaches basic ascension mechanics. There is cosmic law being carried out in this system in several tribunal councils that answer directly to the IFWC through the witnessing of actual events and DNA records of those with the intention to be complicit with or commit genocide of humanity that is actually being organized now upon multiple planes of reality. The aftermath of the destruction caused by the Lyran Wars resulted in extreme damage to the timeline architecture during the phase that the consciousness families had already begun their descent into the lower densities that were gradually blending with AI signals and corrupting the blueprints. After the destruction of the Lyran 12th Stargate and Lyra Aramatena, the Emerald Order Lyran Elohim feline races were appointed to serve as the primary universal security team to help repair the timeline architecture and eradicate the AI infection through multiple evolutionary rounds. They also carry out the reclamation of the Christos mission and assist the fallen races infected with AI in order to be able to choose to continue a path of evolution towards rehabilitation and ascension. Emerald Order Branu and Lyran lineages. The first light manifestations of the Emerald Order and Blue Flame projected from the God Source field the threefold founder flame or cosmic trinity. The Branu are founder consciousness solar Rishik levels that directly support the guardian founder races in the lower harmonic universe, supporting God's sovereign free liberation and the continued spiritual evolution of humanity towards practicing the law of one. The Emerald Order seeded the Anuhazi and are also known as the founders of the Christos races, the Ayani Essene Grail lines that include the Oraphim. They are advanced beings from the highest dimensional worlds that appear as tall, luminescent figures with elongated heads and large eyes when they are physically manifest. They reveal the highest refined emerald colors of the Holy Father Arc or Cosmic Monad principle. They will never interfere and must be communicated with either through previous lineage associations or their presence requested with full consent and personal intent of service to others as a living guardian. The guardian groups include massive numbers with a great variety of different advanced species. The Guardian Alliance is directed by the Elohim Emerald Order Branau, who support the guardians incarnated on the earth that are connected to the lineages of the Christos founder races. These are starseeds and indigos that have incarnated specifically to restore the Emerald Covenant or reclamation of the Christos. The Emerald Branau founders specifically incarnate into the Lyran Syrian lines that originate from Sirius B as the Blue Azurites and Oraphim. The Christos founder race's mission includes supporting the pathway of disclosure that leads into planetary liberation and ascension, and providing the records for witness testimony on behalf of the earth and humanity to be freed from their AI alien oppressors and to gain access into the Interdimensional Free World Council. It is important to be aware of the fact that for many years, the Emerald Order Guardians were being replicated in an extensive AI holographic network that was used to trick or subvert indigos, starseeds, and Christos people from awakening and preventing them from actualizing their heroic probability or Christos mission. Many reconnaissance and repair projects purpose to dismantle these inorganic structures with AI timelines were found strewn in phantom pockets and hibernation zones. Both AI holograms used to project Christos DNA creator code into false timelines and false holograms that used usurped Emerald Order DNA. This appeared to be first stolen during the Thothian hijack that led to the Essene massacre and breeding programs for alien hybridization on Nibiru. These are stolen records which were in the Emerald tablets that held the codices for deconstructing all the information recorded in Emerald Sun DNA, specific to planetary staff and permanent seed atom schematics in all of the 4 planetary rounds making up the Universal Tribal Shield. This has been an ongoing journey to identify these extensive AI projections used as imposters of the Emerald Order that were communicating with Earth humans via false channelings or image projections. The Emerald Order Recon mission reached a crescendo in obtaining access to quantum supercomputers used to upload Emerald Order DNA code that is then projected into computer servers and transmitted through AI signals, that which was used to create AI Emerald Order DNA structures throughout the Matrix. Guardian teams recovered a massive amount of AI hardware in terms of alien machinery used to power up these AI holograms that were running artificial Emerald Guardian holograms and Emerald Order DNA code projections. This was used to attempt overrides on all organic Emerald Order coding, perverting the architecture into the Thothian coded gestalts that are designed to control all of these AI distortions. Thoth was uploaded into an AI brain. So this is not the actual original Luciferic being, but the AI version of himself uploaded and downloaded all over the fabric of the Universal Time Matrix. During the Lyran Wars, the destruction created rips and tears in the fabric of space-time, generating severe damage in the Time Matrix, which further resulted in an unnatural black hole system, which appears to have made our fallen time matrix easily susceptible to this mass AI infection. The unnatural black hole was exploited by the negative alien agenda to build their artificial realities into the phantom matrix, an AI system that siphons energy from living things. The phantom matrix is set to run on reverse polarity currents fed through the victim-victimizer or VV polarity software, which then mutated itself into several dimensional layers of AI programming. The infection began at the point of the Lyran gate destruction and with the solar logos body fragmenting its consciousness into the lower particle dimensions, while this AI infection of the VV was put in to each dimensional layer as a Trojan horse that would generate extreme polarity reversals and gender splitting in each of the down-stepped spectrums of frequency. Reversal polarity currents were designed to stop polarity integration and eliminate tri-wave manifestation, which is required for these parasitic entities' survival. They also use reversal polarity current to run their alien machinery, artificial timelines, and advanced technologies for psychotronic warfare that are used against those they intend to capture. This brings us to their foremost AI mind control weapon of choice, the mutation in consciousness that occurred from the original AI infection inserted during the Lyran Wars, which brought on the infamous victim-victimizer programming. The VV software was very effective in generating polarity reversal current and creating consciousness slaves that could be controlled for the purpose of harvesting loosh for the negative alien agenda. Mutated polarity consciousness, victim-victimizer. The goal of the invading entities which brought on the Lyran Wars was to destroy access between the universal gates, Lyran gates, and Andromeda to prevent any meta-terrestrial founder races from gaining access into the Milky Way system and preventing the future seedings and incarnations of the Christos founder race's DNA. But soon the Lyran Wars spread to the constellation of Orion and through the metagalactic core, where it became a war with those who wanted to dominate others in this system based upon the victim-victimizer fear-based mindsets. This can also be called archetypal enemy patterning. Entities with a service to self ideology were attempting to enslave or eliminate those who followed the law of one with the ideology of service to others that held love-based mindsets. This extreme polarity consciousness was amplified due to the AI levels of programming used to weaponize attacks against multiple other species. The Borga from the black hole system inserted this virus with AI programming into our matrix, creating a time rip with their technology called victim-victimizer software. These entities were introduced to the mainstream as the Borg in the Star Trek franchise. The Borg are cybernetic organisms linked into a hive mind called the Collective. The Borg co-opt the technology and knowledge of other alien species into the Collective through the process of assimilation, forcibly transforming individual beings into drones by injecting nanoprobes into their bodies and surgically augmenting them with cybernetic components. This AI infection corrupted the organic macrocosmic architectural structures that form the law of polarity governed by Gemini and the law of gender governed by Pisces, which were automatically generating reversal polarity current, and as a result of reversal polarity, further generated gender reversals in the planetary body. Think for a moment what the pandemic and virus is actually representing in our world today that is directly mirroring this original event from the Lyran Wars and is replaying in this timeline. It is showing itself as a manifested thing to amplify the fear of victim-victimizer in the current timeline of the physical realm. How do we stop it? We refuse to play the victim-victimizer games. The victim-victimizer programming appears to be sourced from the original polarity experiments that many races from other neighboring systems in the lower creation realms were setting up to incarnate into their time matrices, to better understand the challenges and pitfalls of existing in extreme polarity consciousness. Over many millions of cycles, these entities found themselves losing control over their polarity experiments, from committing ongoing power abuses and forgetting about their connection to the God Source. They became dependent on artificial black hole technology, and this generated time rips, unnatural black holes, and AI viruses, which spread damage throughout many other neighboring systems, including our Milky Way universe. These black hole entities were using time rip technology to gain access into neighboring matrices to vandalize, assimilate, and consume the energy of living things. They reduced themselves to parasites that had to hunt down living energy systems from which to siphon energy, in order to ensure they would continue to exist in the same entity form and have power and control over other living things. During the Lyran Wars, this victim software was also intended to amplify and reverse the creation code in the natural polarity system in order to create mind slaves, specifically targeting the Christos humans inhabiting in the Milky Way system. It is designed as an antichrist AI software used to infect the genetic template of the original Christos blueprint with gender splitting and Metatronic reversal. This is a death spiral architecture. The victimizer program has become the primary mind control software that the multiple predator races use to inflict the archontic deception behavior and its divide and conquer strategies between all humans. Essentially, it works well for creating mind control slaves. The only way out of the victimizer program is to study it in order to comprehend the consciousness damage it generates and refuse it by staying neutral, while choosing to integrate the polarities through unconditional love and 0 point, not playing into the victim and blame game. Essentially, this mutation is responsible for the reversal polarity AI spectrum that holds the human race seed memory, which contains the timeline when we lost contact with our genetic equal, the loss of our species' ability to achieve sacred marriage and ascension. This is why the red wave spectrum of survival consciousness, where they run the AI victim consciousness, is so painful to human hearts and can destroy our personal will. This unnatural extreme polarity mutation introduced by the black hole entities generated distortions in the male-female balance in our diamond sun genetic template and was a contributing factor in gender reversals and extreme polarity competition that led to the conflicts that happened during the fall of Tara and many other tragic fallen histories. Let's go back to examine the painful history which led to the fall of our first world and draw the parallels of the current spiritual crisis we are living through at this time in order to see our task at hand and come into full completion of these destructive histories haunting our world from the past timelines. Seeding the first Christos humans on planet Tara. Many millions of years ago, several founder metaterrestrial races from this universal system and beyond into the omniverses came together at the royal houses of Lyra. This meeting was for the purpose of contributing their most advanced genetic material in the creation of our first world, which is known as the planet Tara. The cosmic trinity are representations of the first, second, and third emanations of the God Source, and thus are the universal founders of this particular time matrix. The universal founders are non-dimensionalized solar body expressions from outside of the time matrix located in the pre-matter fields. The cosmic trinity protects the promise of ascension for all living things traveling in the universal time matrix by ensuring they eventually are able to return to their source frequency and spiritual home at the end of evolution cycles. Returning back into the zero-point field after completing the time matrix evolution cycles are the areas of non-dimensionalized realms, where the free cosmic Christos citizens travel and live in the highest creations that exist in the eternal God worlds. In the fifth harmonic universe, there is no dimensionalization into matter forms. Therefore, there is no planetary body or human form. In the fifth density, there is no time, and as consciousness does not manifest into matter forms, this area is called pre-matter. To oversee the creation of the first world, the universal founders created a race in which to seed their consciousness through onto Tara, and this race is the Lyrans. The Lyrans utilized the genetic library of the metaterrestrial races to design the core manifestation template for the first seeding of the original human 12-strand DNA prototype, which was designed to be the guardian life forms intended to protect the planet Tara. The Lyrans further downstep their consciousness into the next lower density and the third harmonic layers by creating another identity. And these race lines were designed to exist within the dimensional layers of the monadic spirit plane. This race was created by the Lyran founders to specifically oversee the projects of the Lyran-Syrian genetic seedings occurring on Tara. And these particular groups are known as the Elohim. Further, the Syrian Council was organized by and then appointed by the Lyrans to be the main overseers of seeding life on the planet Tara in the next lower dimension, the second harmonic universe. The Lyrans and the Syrians brought the metaterrestrial genetic material together to create the first Diamond Sun template body in matter for the original Terrans, which is the original angelic human body that all Earth humans are actually genetically descended from. The Elohim acted in a supervisory role of protecting the Terran creation from the monadic spirit plane, while in the soul planes, the Syrian Council orchestrated the genetic seedings from the second harmonic timelines. As the root races of planet Earth were originally seeded into sub-races that sourced from 12 tribes, so it was the same for the first seeding on Tara. Over many millions of years, two distinctly opposing seed cultures emerged as infected by the AI programming of the neighboring Borga. The victim-victimizer software, which was designed to amplify extreme forces of polarity that were particularly effective for harvesting Lush energy. The law of polarity was governed by the Gemini constellation, which downstepped mental body creations that were being generated from the AI mutations, forming two reverse polarity signatures. Mutations started to form, in which one group of Terrans started to be genetically slanted towards more aggression, domination over others, and service to self. This group formed into what eventually played out as the Atlanteans, a patriarchal dominating culture that was very mentalized and scientific. The other culture was much more passive, spiritual, and willing to capitulate through service to others. This group formed into what eventually played out as the Lemurians, a matriarchal culture that was very balanced with nature and was following the law of one. These cultural differences amplified into greater energy disturbances, which came to be the polarity schism, which was generating Terran genetic digression into the patriarchal group that wanted to fully dominate the others. Then their scientists began dangerous experimentation with the planetary core power source, ignoring warnings from the others. To help restore unity consciousness to the planet and help harmonize the growing extremes in the divergent cultures, the Syrian Council set up the Council of Mu. The Mu Council devoted themselves to the ancient wisdom practices which were in alignment to the natural laws, the law of one. They spoke of the necessary attunement to nature and natural laws and the need for polarity integration back into the 0 point. During the last stages of the conflicts, which ultimately led to planetary destruction, a rebellion of several smaller wars broke out in protest of the decisions made in governance by the Syrian Council that had been responsible to administer through the Council of Mu. At this time, the technological implications of the mind control being used by neighboring entities to convert humanity into slavery and the impacts of the AI viral infection of victim-victimizer was not understood. These are the histories of the Syrian rebellions that generated rifts between the Syrian Anunnaki and the Syrian Elohims, who based their oversight and decisions to be aligned with the law of one. The Syrian rebellions and Anunnaki lineages refused to acknowledge the authority of the founders or the law of one, and this led to the cataclysm and the sequence of events which eventually destroyed the planet Tara. During the final stages of destruction, the planetary consciousness held within her exploded fragments, and these were pulled into a black hole and came out the other side into an area which is effectively the lowest creation realms, the underworld layers of the Milky Way system. The entirety of the planet Tara's fragments and all her species were pulled into the lowest density of the time matrix and reformed themselves as they emerged into the instruction set, which formed into the solar system pattern, which includes what we know of today as the planet Earth. Earth and all of her consciousness is the composite total of the exploded fragments of our first home planet, seated with divine human beings with 12-strand DNA on planet Tara. Without intervention from the founder races, our meta-terrestrial family, and those Christos races that serve the law of one, the consciousness fragments of the world soul of Tara, all of her root races and species, would remain permanently fragmented and stuck in the lowest density, the underworld layers of the time matrix, unable to evolve, ascend, or eventually return home to the God worlds. Today, we are on the earth to continue this same archetypal journey for the sake of returning collective humanity back to their true spiritual home, reaching the same apex in the end of the cycle timeline, where we are at the crossroads of evolution and making a choice for the direction of the future timeline. The major exception is that for the current incarnation on Earth, we have been given the blessings of the Christos mission. We are reaching an embodiment phase which correlates to the 7th cycle of the reclamation of Christos mission in a plan for fulfilling the Palladorian covenant. This has required many stations of identity traveling in multiple time cycles in order to finally embody the Christ consciousness layers through the 7 sacred sons, cosmic principles of the universal creators. The beginning and the end all return back to Lyra. After the fall of Tara, the Lyran Syrian Council, Elohim, Pleiadians, the priests of Ur, and other concerned citizens in the second harmonic universe contacted the Emerald Order for assistance and a rescue mission was planned to retrieve the souls of Tara. This agreement is the reclamation of Christos' mission that sources directly from the original Palladorian covenant that was set into motion millions of years ago. The Palladorians agreed to be the first line of supporting evolution and reclamation of the inner spirit for all humanity, awakening in the first waves of the Ascension Plan to help lead the Terran souls on Earth back home. Many of them are known as the Starseeds. These are a variety of spiritual families that are directly under the protectorate of the Emerald Order, and as a result have specific frequency-based signatures that can be recognized by other entities. These signatures serve as a warning of defenses of deflection, to be utilized in full extent of what applies to the service of upholding cosmic order. Finding integration and balance. Finding the inner integration point means allowing all levels of experiential being as co-created from us, whether negative polarity or positive polarity, to ultimately witness the mirrored expressions of the whole and know that we have all the power to heal and be transformed when we choose love over fear. This means we must let go of our fear, which keeps us in denial of seeing and knowing the truth. If we allow conscious action to accelerate our integration process through holding neutral balance in the presence of extreme polarities, we will naturally allow integration to take place inside of our body, mind, and spirit. To stop the vicious cycle of feeding the hatred that exists in the archetypes of the victim or the victimizer, we must find the courage and bravery to restore energetic balance within ourselves, digging deep for the personal strength, asking help from God, Christ, and Spirit every day to prevail no matter what the circumstances. All change begins within the self, as each of us holds value for all life. While developing our self-worth and self-love, we are empowered to be a positive force of spiritual transcendence that restores energetic balance. Love is the force that restores balance and harmony to all things. In the interpretation of restoring energetic balance through the law of one is an egalitarian philosophy for the evolving humanity who is consciously choosing to move towards humanitarian goals. Ascension study is an evolutionary model for valuing our planet and all of humanity. The main focus is upon the inner spiritual study, reflection, and the personal commitment to expand one's consciousness and benevolence towards life, even while present in fields of hatred. We must continually choose love as the force we want to expand and grow in our body. As we expand our consciousness, we shift our perspective to feel our interconnection with all of life. We shift our orientation to be of service to others, thus reflecting inner truth and energetic balance. When we experience this all-encompassing spiritual energetic connection, we inherently desire to practice human kindness and seek to collaborate with developing higher structures that place value on all human beings. We seek a value system of world humanism. As we restore energetic balance and establish values of world humanism, we begin the apostolic age of the law of one. This age starts with the restoration of the planetary architecture and energy grid networks to be governed by those same universal laws. As heaven meets earth, we establish the new laws to be made manifest through our physical body, which is the multidimensional aspect of the universal consciousness for one and for all. May we gather together in perfect peace and allow our loving hearts to lead the way forward. May peace be with your heart, mind, and body during these chaotic times. Please only take what is useful for your spiritual growth and discard all the rest. Thank you for your courage and bravery to be a truth seeker. Until next, stay in the luminosity of your avatar, Christos Sophia heart path. Please be kind to yourself and to each other. With a loving heart, until next month.